Hey bosses, wanting to tell you about a way you can connect with other Travel Like a Boss podcast listeners, talk about travel, online business, and discuss previous episodes as well as suggest future guests. Join our Facebook group, Travel Bosses, by going to facebook.com and searching for Travel Like a Boss podcast, clicking like, and clicking join group. Join our digital nomad Travel Bosses group today.
Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, where we interview location-independent entrepreneurs that travel the world like a boss by being their own boss. Here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey guys, this is Johnny, and welcome to episode 248 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. Very excited today, talking to an old friend, Mike Chang. Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, man.
Bro, I am so excited. You guys might recognize him from a former life, Six-Pack Shortcuts, but Mike's been up to so much more since then, and I just want to catch up. Do you remember actually how we first met and when that was?
Man, that was Houston. I remember Houston at Qua's place, our friend Qua, and I remember I was bouncing at the club, you know. And you rolled out with me one night, and oh man, it was just crazy times, man. Yeah, I remember some of them.
What year was that? How long ago was that?
Bro, that's gotta be like about 10 years ago. Like, I would say close to about 10 years ago now.
Yeah, so this was right before you guys even started Six-Pack Shortcuts. I remember I was in the house when you guys were meal prepping and sneaking out to, was it 24 Hour Fitness? Well, what gym was that at? That you guys would just like go at like 2 a.m. to film and nobody was there.
That's probably 24, I think. Yeah, I think, wow, man. So long ago.
And it's crazy because I remember I was like there eating your meal preps, but instead of leaning out and working out and being on the diet, I was just eating like 2 or 3 of them, then having a burrito and like sitting on the couch with a Raymond.
Oh man,
that was crazy. And I mean, like, so I also remember you were a personal trainer at the time too.
I was working for LA Fitness. A gym at the time, and I was a training general manager. My job was actually to sell training packages and also run the training department at the gym. And I remember I was doing really well, and but I wanted to build my own business. So I left when I was at the peak. You know, I just won this contest. I had a really nice bonus check, and 2 weeks later, I was out. And
wow.
That was a big.
Yeah, that was a big decision. I mean, and did you? Because I remember when you guys first, had this idea. You and Dan were like, we're going to be the #1 fitness YouTube channel. And even back then, in like 2008 or 2009, there was a lot of fitness channels on YouTube, and I was like, well, there is no way these guys are going to get #1. Like, they were like, I just didn't see the possibility. It's like today in 2020, if somebody wants to start, like anything, right, on YouTube, it's saturated. It's like, do you want, like, it'd be like me saying I want to be the #1, e-commerce channel, the #1 yoga channel, the #1, cooking channel. People, would look at you like, it is so saturated. How are you going to compete? Did you have any of those fears when you guys started with that?
We didn't have fears on anything because our main goal wasn't really it wasn't to be #1 in the beginning. Over time, that became more of the goal we were chasing. At first, it was like, all right, let's just go ahead and aim to make, I think it was like $7,000 a month each. Like, if we can make $7,000 a month each, woohoo! All right, bills are covered. We've got some extra spending money. Life is good. And so we worked, and I remember when we hit that goal, and it was like, all right, man, we're doing more than 15 grand a month now, and covering all the expenses.
How long did that take?
That was after we launched. I think within about 4 or 5 months. About 4 or 5 months, we were somewhere around there, I believe. Yeah, about four or 5 months, because it took a couple months to kind of get the metrics down to be able to start scaling and things like that. So after that, I remember we hit that, and from there we were hitting higher milestones about every other month, and it was just like constant climb. You know, we got the machine down, we got the foundation down.
Yeah, and I remember you guys just out of nowhere just blew up. But it must have been, I mean, was it from the start you guys were like, okay, this is gaining traction, or did it take a few months to even like, you know, get your first, 1,000 subscribers?
When we first started, the model was to basically use YouTube as a marketing platform and just advertise to go ahead and get sales. Just advertise the videos, promote the videos to go ahead and get sales. The subscribes kind of came just as a default, and then later on we started to find out if we go ahead and drive people directly to the main page, to the channel page, get them to be a subscriber first, and just do that as like the call to action, and then from there go ahead and do remarketing strategies to go ahead, because once they start watching videos, so I mean there was a lot of moving parts. I wouldn't say. I'm trying to think of because it was such a while ago, and honestly, I wasn't the one that was running all. It was Daniel Rose that was running the traffic on YouTube. He was really, really good at it.
Yeah, and he's had a lot of internet marketing experience before that, and I think from an outside point of view looking in, I was trying to figure out, like, how did you guys get so big? And I think it was two things. One was there was never good quality free content on YouTube for fitness back then.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is now. Back then, it was either just really terrible like film content, or so low quality content, or they were just selling something right away. And you guys actually gave really good quality workouts, and then you as a persona, people really connected with you. You were very genuine, you're very authentic, and I know you in person, and I know that's exactly the way you are. Like, you really care, you want people to succeed, you want people to be happy. It's not just, you're not just putting the smile on for camera. And I've followed some of your workouts. I think I still have a bookmarked like one of your bicep workouts kind of randomly, and I actually remember saving it to a playlist and accidentally having it be public on my channel. So in the wrong folder in my travel playlist or something. So people were like, why does Johnny have this random Mike Chang video in his on his YouTube channel? But yeah, I've gotten a lot of value from it, and I know just hearing, reading comments and hearing from people that a lot of people have been inspired because of you to start working out and start their fitness journey and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also know it wasn't easy being the face of it and needing to keep, because I think a lot of people don't realize this, but it's fucking hard to stay lean year round. Most of the fitness the competitors that you see in movie stars, they do a crazy crash diet, a crazy cut. They take the photos, they film the movie, and then they just chill. But you guys did this for a couple years straight?
Yeah, for about 6 years. Yeah, I mean now it's almost like a standard. Like we created a standard on YouTube especially for fitness, that to be shirtless. It's almost like you gotta part of it is the knowledge, and the other part is you gotta embody what it is you're teaching. And so. Now I feel like there's so many people on there. It's like the default look is they're shirtless, either they're talking or they're working out, but they got to be shirtless, and their credibility, a lot of it comes from the way they look. It's a big standard, especially for working out. And I think that was tough.
Yeah, and. What about the comments? Because even though so many people, I would say even though the vast majority of the comments were positive, people were saying thanks so much for this free workout, man, you're in such good shape, you're inspiring me. There's always going to be the 1%, or maybe it's even less, maybe it's 0.001%, 1 out of 1,000 comments, but those haters freaking stab. It's like walking by 100 people smiling at you, but one person has a knife and stabs you in the back as you're walking by. How did that feel?
I even at that time, I was learning a lot about law of attraction, and the simple fact of just paying attention to what I want to create and don't give attention to what I didn't want. And so I just ignored them. I didn't comment back. I was aware that they were there, and I just didn't care. I just kept focusing on where I wanted the company to go, what I wanted to create. And so I just didn't give any attention to it.
Good job, man. That's something I'm still working on today. And like, my channel's not nearly as big, but I still get, hundreds of comments sometimes. And, 1 out of the 100 is going to be someone, a hater, right? And it might be some fat dude in his mom's basement that's never done, accomplished anything in his life, but behind a keyboard, he sounds like everyone else. He has the same soapbox as everyone else. And for me, it's been really hard. I mean, and it's something I've gotten much better with now, but I used to take everything so personally, like 90 people can say, like, Johnny, thanks so much for this information. It's really good. It's helped me. It's inspired me. You changed my life. And then one person could say, Johnny, you're a piece of crap, and what they say might not even be true, but that might be, they might take a grain of truth, right? They say, like, Johnny, like you're wearing a blue shirt, so that means you must be, whatever, right? whatever some stupid thing is, like, Johnny, you're in Thailand, so you must be XYZ, or Johnny, you're this, so you must be whatever. And it just hurts. And I'm like, I don't know this person, they're probably not someone I would even listen to if I met them in person. I'd probably look at them and like, why is this, like, fat couch potato, with no job, living in his mom's basement, like, that's unhappy, probably, trying to tell me how to live my life when, he doesn't know me, what he's saying, majorly is not true, but it still hurts, man. Like, it still really hurts me.
I find that I was actually making a video on this topic. I was live on Instagram just a few hours ago, and one of the questions that came in was, how do you deal with haters? And, a lot of times we like to think that there's some scrub, there's some person that just has a terrible life, and so don't pay attention to them. And that could be true, but sometimes they are just a normal person, but they just simply don't like something about us and things like that. They go and comment. But I learned, like, in the deeper behind that, people that are actively talking shit, actively just creating negativity and hate comments, they're upset. It's not that they're upset at you or upset at me. They're upset at themselves. They're angry. They're angry and they're hurt. And so when somebody's in like that emotional state, the only thing that can express is the same thing that they have inside. And so whether or not it's to you or it's to their sister or to their friend or something, unless, it's like if they can find a way to express it, they will. And it's not anything. That's why when I started to learn this, I was like, man, it's not anything. It's not even towards me, because they'll do it on everybody else's channel. They'll do it to people they meet. They'll do it to some random person on the road. And I started to have compassion towards them. I started to realize, like, man, these people are just, they're suffering inside. And if they could help it, they would just let go of this anger, and then they'll just be chilling. But the fact is, they don't know how to do it. They haven't done it yet. And so that's just kind of how they're living.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it was Joe Rogan or someone who said, he used to listen to some of the comments and be like, maybe I should learn from this. But then he would click in to see what else this guy has said in other groups or in other, videos or whatever it was. And it was always like that. It was all negative. And like, I've even caught myself being negative sometimes. Like, if I'm having a really terrible day for whatever reason, and I'm, watching some YouTube video, I might be like, oh man, this pizza looks like crap, like, and all of a sudden I'm like, why did I write that, number one? And then second, what happened to my grammar? Like, it wasn't even me. Like, it was just like some angry guy talking trash about pizza. Like, saying, like, your pizza sucks or whatever. I didn't even eat the pizza. And yeah, I think you're right. Where, like, it's very little of it has anything to do with us personally. It is mostly because they are suffering in their life and they're unhappy in other aspects. And this is like their one way to lash out, or, maybe even try to drag other people down too, so they can feel the way they feel, and so they're not alone, and yeah.
They're not even consciously doing that. It's like if they had a choice, they don't sit there and think like, who am I going to bring down today? And who am I going to go ahead and get mad at today? They're not even thinking that. That's the thing. It's like, when you're mad, imagine like the last time you're angry. And because you're angry, you're walking around, everybody that you look at, that energy inside of you, directing at them, the way your eyes look, the way your posture looks, it all resembles anger. And you may not even know who the stranger is you just walked by, but they may feel that anger coming off of you. And you didn't go, I'm going to get angry at all these people as I walk. No, you're just being angry, and then it just gets expressed on wherever we direct our attention. And This is something that no matter who it is, every single human is dealing with these type of things. And honestly, man, that's why I took the hiatus. That's why I left for so many years. And I went in because after Six Pack, I reached a level of success, and I was really grateful, and I had everything that I wanted, bro. Everything on the outside was like as perfect as can be. I basically hit what I would consider the American dream for the most part.
Money, fame,
nice house,
stuff, yeah.
Money, yeah, all that stuff. But on the inside, I was so miserable. I was so stressed. And the funny thing is, I thought, like what many people also think, which is being an entrepreneur and having a big operation. It's kind of just it kind of comes with the game, If you don't want that, well, don't build it, right? You got to be able to handle that heat. And so I thought, well, that's just the way it is. Nothing is wrong with my life. It's just how it is. And so I went and just stuck with it, but I was miserable. And when I finally had a realization of like what's actually happening, I realized like if I go and continue to pursue building this business, I'll reach a higher level of success. Everything will amplify, but nothing's going to change on the inside. And actually probably will get worse and worse because I was going downhill on the inside while the outside seemed to be going uphill, And I realized, like, so what's the point? There's no point. I'm not going to get happier if I have more stuff on the outside. And so that's when I took a step back. I started leaving everything behind, and I started going in, and I started to learn, like, how do we get rid of anger? How do we get rid of anxiety? How do we actually get rid of being stressed? Get rid of the mind chatter in our head, the crazy judgment about ourselves and all this stuff. How do I get rid of not being attached to my body? So this way, if I gain an extra roll on my stomach, I don't freak out, and now I don't want to go outside because I don't want everybody to look at my midsection. Or I'm scared to take off my shirt now because I have an extra roll and everybody's expecting me to look completely leaned out. All of these
especially
things,
in your case, being in front of the camera. Like I think I've read a comment. They're like, "Oh, this guy only has a 5-pack now. Like, what happened to his 6-pack? This is false advertising." Like, I'm like, come on, guys. Like, have you guys never had a pizza in the morning? Like, just like, but yeah, and I'm sure that pressure got to you, right? I mean, like, would you get recognized a lot too? Like,
it was big.
Like, would you able to just go out and like live a normal life, or like what was that like?
Everywhere I went, man. Everywhere I went, every single city of every single country I visited, I was getting recognized everywhere. And it wasn't something that was enjoyable because most of the time I'm just chilling. I want to go to a grocery store. I want to go to Marshall's and go see what type of deals they got. I'm just gonna chill. I'm not wearing anything nice, and my hair is just all wacky. And then people come up to me, and it's like, and it wasn't like I was. I didn't really care. I knew it was kind of part of the game. But it wasn't too enjoyable, to be honest, because I just didn't have any off time. There was no off time if you're being recognized everywhere. And I came to sense with it that it's just part of the trade-off. Part of the trade-off is I'm the one that's sharing the information, so people are going to see me, and so I'm helping a lot of people. And it would probably be a little different if it was other people sharing it. But there's a way that I share it that maybe people connect to. But the flip side is I will get recognized, and I will lose a certain amount of privacy. And I came to terms with that many years ago. About a year and a half in, me and my partner Dan, we were talking, and I was telling him, I was like, man, I just realized that as this keeps going, like, I'm gonna get recognized everywhere. And they were like, yeah, yeah, that's gonna happen. And I remember just sitting there and having this realization. I swear, it never crossed my mind. There wasn't this idea that like people are gonna recognize me. No, it's like, oh, we're gonna promote this program, we're gonna make a lot of money, and that's the end of it. And I remember sitting there going, whoa, okay. Like in my mind, just thinking, I didn't sign up for this, but what can we do now, right? Everything, the whole structure, I'm the face of the company, these products, the way we're promoting everything. I'm like, okay, all right, well, let's just keep going with it. So.
Yeah, because even though Dan Rose was in some of the videos, you are much more recognizable. Number one, and you first off, like you were the face of it. You're like the main guy. He was in like a few videos, here and there. But also, like you're a big guy. You're an Asian. You're jacked, and it's just like instantly you're like, yeah, that's Mike Chang. Versus if you see Dan walking in the airport and he's wearing his like baggy sweatpants and he has his headphones on, his hair's done. He looks like another Asian dude like walking by, and like he doesn't stand out as much. Did you ever regret, becoming, I don't want to say becoming famous, but like, being out there and losing that privacy? Or did you really come to terms with it, saying like, yeah, that's just the way it is?
Not at all. No regrets at all. It allowed me to grow so much as a person, So it was just part of the journey. It's just all part of the journey.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and there's something about YouTube and the connection that people get seeing, the face and getting to know you over, hours and hours of hearing your voice that really makes a connection. It's funny, with my podcast gets way more downloads than my YouTube channel, but 9 times out of 10, or maybe 99 times out of 100, if someone comes up to me at an airport or in Chiang Mai or something, they're like, hey, you're that guy from YouTube. And it's always from YouTube. It's never like, hey, you're from JohnnyFD.com, or, you did the Travel Like a Boss podcast. It's always 100%. They come up to me, I know they're going to say, hey, I watched your YouTube channel. And it's because, they see your face, they see your mannerisms, and they feel like they kind of know you in a way, almost like they're watching TV. But the people I really like to actually talk to and get to know, the people that I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to have lunch, do you want to come join me? Are the people that listen to the podcast. Because I feel like those people, even though someone could have listened to 100 episodes and not recognize me on the street because the photo on my cover is like 10 years old and I'm wearing sunglasses, and they just don't really see me, but they know me because this is a long form conversation with some of my best friends from years ago. They follow the journeys. They really know me as a person, and they still listen. And thank you guys for listening and for subscribing. Those, like, you guys are the ones that actually know me as a person, versus if someone watches a 5-minute YouTube clip, they know that side of me, that like that one layer. Do you ever feel like that was kind of the case with you, where that was the one, that was a big important part of your personality and you as a person, the fitness side of it? But do you ever feel like people only knew that one little sliver of you, and there was so much more they didn't know?
Big time on that. Because I was not personal at all in any of the videos. It was purely, I'm going to create content that's going to help people. I'm going to share personal things in my life. Well, I'm going to share, like, people didn't even know how old I was. They didn't know my birthday. They didn't know anything. Because I didn't share it, because I was thinking, you're coming here to go and learn about what it is that I know about exercise and eating right, and creating your life, It doesn't matter who I am. You don't even know things about me, just what I know. And I remember my team kept telling me for the longest time, like, Mike, they're here because of you. It's like, yes, they like the stuff you're sharing, but they're here because of you as a person. Like, they like you. Maybe you should share a little more. They're trying to get me to kind of come out more. And I just never saw it as some type of value. I didn't see myself as a person that people were following. I was seeing it as people are following my information, my teachings, my lessons, not me. Not like I'm some celebrity that people want to know. What is he eating? Where is he going? What's he doing? It's like, and I realized that it's because in reality, I didn't give a shit about it. I didn't care. I don't care about people's lives and what they're doing. Like, if I go in and follow somebody, I'm getting information about things that I want to learn. And because I didn't care, I didn't see myself that way, I didn't ever do it in that way. And so when people came up to me, it was always on specifically what I shared. Working out stuff, eating stuff, that commercial where I did this and this, and they had no idea what was going on in my life. And I remember, like, just, it was okay. I realized it after a while, it wasn't like good or bad or anything. It was just like, wow, this is, I painted a very specific picture, and that picture stayed for a very long time. Even now, after starting to share content again, there's still a lot of people that still only sees that. But now it's a little different, because ever since coming back onto YouTube and on social media, the way that I'm creating videos, my content is really, really different. It's the way I'm sharing is much more natural. There's not like this force in trying to deliver information like how I used to do it. You ever see people or you ever experience it yourself? It's like we're having this natural conversation, right? And then suddenly the camera turns on, and it's like suddenly this person changes personality, and then they go into their camera personality. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
oh, hey, blah, blah. So they talk louder and they're all exaggerated and all this stuff.
And you're like, what the hell?
You're
Yeah.
just chilling and suddenly like the information's like, and it's like all exaggerated. And so that's what I mean. I used to do that, and so now it's a little different. It kind of flows.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And I think this is why I really like the long form content, and I think this is the future of media is, let's say you get on like some news channel like, CSNBC or the morning show or something, and they're like, all right, you have 3 minutes, like make your pitch, so you have to basically memorize a script that you're going to do for those next 3 minutes. You're like, all right, I'm going to stand here, I'm going to, sit here, I'm going to say this, I'm going to jump up, I'm going to do, 6 push-ups, and then I'm going to do this, and even on, like, let's say if this was like a 20-minute podcast, a lot of my guests would probably be like, all right, I have 20 minutes, let me fit in everything I want to say, and they would have a script. But podcasts like this and Joe Rogan's, where it's just long form, it's just a conversation, people really, maybe for the first, few minutes where there's a few sound bites here and there, but in general, 99% of it is just, what people are thinking and what people really want to talk about, which I really love. And this is what I love about doing this, is being able to share like the journey of what we've learned, because I think both you and I and a lot of my friends are very fortunate where we escaped the normal 9-to-5 corporate life, that stage 1 of happiness seeking. I think if I never achieved any success back in the US, like if I never had the nice car or the nice stuff, I'd probably still be trying to get to that stage, even if other people were saying like, no, that doesn't really matter, like don't worry about it. I would be like, no, I need that, and I think sometimes it's hard to see past that, or just to even trust somebody that those things don't matter until you get it, and then then you can realize, but like, oh, you know what? Yeah, actually they were right. This stuff never really mattered in the first place. But do you think it's like really possible just to bypass all that, or do you think that's like a natural step where we kind of need to hit, to have a taste at least of, that normal success in life, to be able to say, okay, I've experienced that. Now let's move on to the next thing instead of just getting stuck here.
I think it's different for everybody, because even when somebody goes, I need to have a taste of that. Well, that taste could be different for everybody. That taste for one person is, I'm making $150,000 a year now, and I feel like, man, there's got to be more in life than just making money. And somebody may look at that as just a road bump, and they're like, yeah, I need to get to about $5 million a year, build a massive company, build a big operation, and now I feel like there's got to be more in life than making money, right? And so I think it's just really different for everybody. Personally, I realize that if somebody feels that they need to do it, that's like they can't seem to direct their attention anywhere else, then go for it, because sometimes certain people will need to experience hitting certain milestones, having certain lessons before they realize, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next thing. And the lessons can't be told, right? It can't be read in a book, and it can't be someone else giving them advice. They have to actually experience it. And I think it's good. I think it's fine. And then there are other people that don't, So I think it's just relevant depending on who each person is. And I think the way that people know is when they hear the information, are they able to do it? If somebody hears the information right now and they go, okay, Mike, Johnny, okay, so basically it's not about success. It's just about, finding happiness and finding what you're really passionate about. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but man, I just can't seem to get away from pursuing this thing, and I really want to hit that goal. And I hear what you're saying, but I just need to find out for myself. Then I think this person is doing the right thing by just finding out for themselves. And maybe they go down the path for a certain amount of time before they go, okay, I remember what those guys were telling me years ago. And I think that's cool. I don't think there's a certain time limit, or it's a never too late type of thing. I think there's just a cause and effect. Like, what's the difference between realizing this 10 years from now when somebody's in their, late 40s instead of late 30s? Well, what are you doing now in your life, the age, and now you have kids or whatever it is, it's not bad or good. That's just what it is, So I think it just depends for each person. But I do know that, however,
yeah, I could definitely see
no
that.
matter what, if a person doesn't find a way to be able to learn how to connect to themselves, like if they don't learn how to be able to connect to themselves, they don't learn how to be able to to know who they are as a person and to value themselves as a person beyond the material stuff and even beyond their own physical body. If they don't realize how to do that, then they will always limit the level of happiness, the level of joy and freedom in their life. And the thing about that is they don't even realize that they are limiting themselves. They just simply may just come up with a reason like, this is just the way life is, and the amount of excitement that I have for aliveness is just where it's at. That's it. There's nothing more, because they never experienced more. And when somebody tells them, oh man, you should be so alive about life, blah, 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 they go, well, that's that person, right? I'm a different person. My experience of life is different. But in reality, all of us can experience that super heightened state to where we're so excited, so alive, we feel so freaking free. That enthusiasm, all of us have the ability to experience it, but it takes having to detach from everything else that we feel is giving us some sort of self-value,
Wow, it's a lot to unpack there, and I think you're right, and I think, but I'm struggling with it still, where, as you had mentioned earlier, like if, let's say, somebody wanted to build a business, it kind of comes to the territory to have that responsibility sometimes, right? And then is the choice then to just not build the business in the first place and not take on those responsibilities and say, you know what, I don't even want to add that stress in my life, so I'm just not going to do it in the first place? Or is the key to build it in a way from day one where you're like, I'm going to build this and make the money from it and have the experience from it, but, somehow have these magical set of rules in place where it just never adds that stress? So is that even possible?
I think when somebody's wanting to build a business, they might initially have the idea and the drive because they want to create financial freedom, they want to make money, they want to be able to experience a lifestyle, they want to travel, and etc. But I think they also need to realize that, okay, I'm doing this just for the money, and while I want the money and it's nice, I need to have more depth. I need to go and have more purpose behind it. What is my business actually doing for people? Oh, right, it's giving people this value. It's helping to solve this problem in the world. Okay, so I'm going to keep my eye on delivering value to the customers and creating this type of goodness in the world, even though I know personally that inside I'm driven to make money and to be financially successful. But I want to make sure that on the outside, my business is actually doing good. And over time, as they're working hard and they're pulling the extra hours and they're, creating success and they're happy on the inside, but they're also making sure the business on the outside is actually doing good. And that's important, because if not, people may strive to only look at the money aspect and then they're not actually doing any good for people's lives. It's just this constant transaction. People aren't really getting new problems solved. And so over time, as this is happening, they can go, okay, I feel like I don't need to feed myself anymore. I realize that I can now see myself as this freaking awesome person. And if I lost this company, if I had nothing, I feel right now that I will be fine. And so now let me put all of my intention, all of my focus on bringing more value to customers, how to serve people more. And at that point, maybe their business continues the same. Maybe their business branches out into another revenue stream. Maybe the model shifts. A lot of things kind of happen. And whatever it is, like, that's a really good way to build, while at the same time, when the time is right, the business kind of evolves. Versus if somebody was to go ahead and start from the beginning and go, I am so money driven, I want success, and I know it's just to make myself feel better. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather do it and have righteousness and in high integrity right from the beginning. So therefore, let me not do anything until I get to that point. And therefore, they may end up not doing anything ever. So I always say it's better just to go ahead and move forward and just realize the true intention. Even if the true intention is to make ourselves feel better about ourselves, at least we aren't lying to ourselves for that not happening, And just as long as we are being aware of it, at some point, we'll get past it.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that if someone does go that route, I think it's okay just to be like, all right, I'm just going to work my butt off for the next, 2 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, make a bunch of money, and then move on to something I really want to do. I think that's okay as long as they actually save some of that money, because I think it'd be the worst thing in the world would be to sell your soul for 4 years, make a bunch of money, but spend all of it because someone's unhappy, and then at the end of the 4 years, they still have no money, but they just had bought a bunch of crap, sitting in a closet somewhere, a bunch of Louis Vuitton. But I mean, sometimes, like, especially here while traveling, right? I see two kind of extreme sides, right? So here in Sri Lanka, there's lots of surfers, some kind of backpackers, and like people, yogis that came from India, and they have zero money, like zero savings, but they're very happy. At least when things are going well, they're extremely happy. All they do every day is they surf for 4 or 5 hours a day, and they just have some beers and cigarettes at night and just chill and just talk about how great their life was. And I look at them, and sometimes I'm jealous. I'm freaking envious. I look at them, I'm like, man, that is a level of happiness that I have not felt in a long time. Like, I can't remember the last time I was that free. But at the same time, I also look at them thinking, that's not very sustainable, right? Like, when crap hits the fan, like, they don't even have enough money to fly home if they wanted to. They really are stuck. Especially right now during this kind of the quarantine, like, a lot of them are broke, so they're just like, trying to live as cheap as possible, going through savings, maybe even, needing to borrow money, but they're happy, like, they have nothing, but they're happy. On the other hand, I'm here working hard, building businesses online, and I have, all the money in the world now coming in, and I think I'm trying to balance it, and, I'm still here, I'm still going surfing, I'm still doing, the things they're doing, but I don't have that same level of just joy of letting go, because, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, all right, I got to go put on sunblock so I don't get, skin cancer 5 years from now. I got to make sure, I'm drinking enough water, I'm hydrated, while these motherfuckers are out there for 5 hours, no water, no sunblock, and just, no care in the world.
Yeah, man. It's, you can have a balance. You can live a lot in that way also, without having to be broke and just let everything go. It's like you got these businesses, you're doing these things, one by one. It's a lot of moving parts, but one by one, you start to be okay with, like, what's happening every day with the business. You start to be okay. You don't hold on to, you don't become attached to, like, the outcome of the sales, the outcome of the projects. You do your best to have them to be good, but whether or not they happen in the way that you want, it doesn't matter anymore. And it doesn't matter anymore because you realize, okay, I have more than enough, everything is fine, and I am not going to have a higher self-value. I am not going to be happier by having any of those things. My happiness actually comes from somewhere else. And it's not just this idea. There's an idea in the mind, a new belief system to adapt, but it's also a energy, a sensation, an emotion inside the body. See, people, we spend so much time connecting to everything on the outside, from our business to our social media to other people to music to movies to everything on the outside, right? Places, traveling. Well, we don't spend enough time literally connecting to the inside. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? Do we actually feel the physical sensation inside the body? There's an energy inside our body, and if we put our attention to it, we can connect to it. We can feel it. And you know how people nowadays, they feel so uncomfortable. There's always this low sense of agitation. The more still that they are, the more quiet that their environment is, the more they can sense this. And that's why the last thing that people want to do is those two things: be in a very still position and be in a very quiet place, because they now are feeling and hearing what's actually happening inside of them, and it's very uncomfortable. But that's the only route to letting those things go, is to face it, realize that they're there, and let go of it piece by piece. And until they do, they're always going to not want to connect to themselves. And then themselves, and imagine if we don't connect to ourselves, then ourselves feel. Once our attention needs to connect to ourselves, it's like our body is one thing and our mind is another thing. and they're separate. And so when we connect them together, it's like our mind, our awareness becomes connected to our body. And then when that happens, we actually start to feel whole. But until then, if we aren't doing that, then we are chasing everything on the outside, and it's never feeling that lack feeling that every single person feels once they just quiet down their environment enough and they just become a little still and they feel it. And most people don't know why it's there, but everybody knows it because we're all human.
Yeah, I like that, and I like that you brought that up. So one thing that I had heard as a complaint about the quarantine and lockdown was there's a few people online very vocal saying it's unhealthy for people with traumas or anxiety or whatever to have to be forced to stay at home because they're used to being able to go out and And I was reading this, I was thinking, wait, they're saying like it's bad to force people to stay at home and have time for themselves because now they have to face what's going on in their actual life versus them being able to go out and avoid these problems by always being stimulated and entertained and being busy or always being at the club or drinking or whatever. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like it's probably good to force people to stay at home and just and reflect for a few weeks and think like, why am I always needing to be busy? Why am I always needing to be at the club or drinking or being even being around people all the time? Like, I don't know. I don't know if the answer is to force everyone to do it, but I think ultimately it is healthy.
It's
right?
I feel it's necessary. I feel it's necessary. And people have the opportunity right now to be able to spend time to go inwards. They're able to spend time to do a lot of things because for once in their life, they actually have more control over their own time. Before, their time and intention is being pulled everywhere. And now, they have a lot of it back. And, it's temporary. Soon things will kind of go back to, similar to how it was. But during this time, I think it's really good for people to spend that time to, to connect to themselves and to do a lot of things that they wanted to do, but some people kind of made up excuses while other people literally just didn't have the time,
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the best things I ever did for myself was I did a 10-day Vipassana, a silent meditation, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And for those who aren't familiar with it, it's basically 10 days of complete silence, no input, no output. So no reading, no listening to music, no listening to podcasts, no watching YouTube videos, and you're not even supposed to do any output. You're not supposed to speak. You're not even supposed to journal or write or anything. It's just 10 days
can't even work
of
out.
meditation. Yeah, no work. Yeah, nothing. And when I first learned about it, I was at a point in my life where I had taken that first step. I had, quit my job, moved to Thailand, become a scuba diving guide. And I was like, this is happiness. This is it. And I was happy, but at the same time, I knew something else was missing. I knew I was running from something. I was hiding from something. And that was going to this 10-day meditation was kind of like an extreme way for me to be like, all right, let me really force myself to face who I am and my fears. And and whenever people ask me, if I was happy I did it, I would always say yes, it was the best thing I've ever done. But they would ask me would I do it again. I'll say there's no chance I would do that again.
A friend of mine is about to go to a 5-day Vipassana that is in complete darkness.
Nope.
Yeah, it's like it's just another level, and there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to be able to get to the same place, to where we're connecting to ourselves, to where we're letting go. Vipassana is definitely one of them, and over the years after I left Six Pack, I started to research, I started to learn, I started to find out how to do it. What is the most efficient way that I can do it, and how do I show other people how to do it? And over time, I started studying a lot of different type of practices, from yoga to qigong to learning about massage, energetic grounding, and spirituality and religion and so forth, psychology, and I started to realize like some really basic fundamentals. Like for example, we'll do something right now. So at this point, keep your arms down and just relax, right? And just relax and don't move anything. And then we're still talking, right? So when you try not to move anything, you'll start to feel little tingles here and there in the body that make you almost want to move, right?
Yeah.
And so those tingles in the body is actually blockages in the body. And when energy can't flow, blood is also energy. So is oxygen. So is energy. when it's not able to flow really well, we feel it in the body. We feel it literally. There's tingles there. It could be in the neck, it could be in the arms, it could be in the legs, stomach, different places for different people. But we feel it. And so the idea is these tingles, these areas, because they're blocked, there is a tension there. There's tightness there. And when someone has too much tightness, that's when their posture gets all rounded. You see them hunched over, you see them protruding shoulders, hips, and all that stuff. And so the idea is every time when we get stressed, every time when we get angry or worried or fearful, we create some type of tension. The body responds and reacts with tension. And if we don't let go of the tension completely, then we hold on to part of it. And it's no big deal if you hold on to just part of it from this one event. But imagine how many events, how many times we have gotten worried and fearful and angry in our life. And every time when that happens, we let go of majority of it, but we hold on to a little bit of it. And that little bit gets accumulated over the decades. And so now, as grown-ups, it's all throughout our body, tensions everywhere, blockages everywhere. And one of the simplest ways to feel it, to become aware of it, is simply just to sit still, you know? And so this way, when you feel the urge for the body to want to move around, that is the tension, that is the blockages. And so we actually constantly move around and fidget to try to go ahead and open up the blockages in the body. So there are actual ways to go ahead and be able to do that much more efficiently than just regularly moving around a little bit. So right now, how are you feeling right now by staying still? I see you're staying still there.
That was nice, man. Like, for the last couple of minutes that you asked me to stay still, I did, and I felt the tingles, and I felt the blockages, you know, and, you know, regardless of, you know, if it's blood flow or energy flow, blockages, whatever it is, I felt that, you know what, you're right. And I had this urge to move around. I have an urge to, shake my leg or to do something. And when I just told myself, no, let's just stay in this position, you know, and let me just feel it. That by itself, just being aware of that, allowed me to relax. So, just instantly, by being aware of it and allowing it, it actually started to relax a little bit. And then, I think that was already like the biggest step, you know. And I think even if I just by being aware of it, it already solved, you know, maybe half of it, you know, just seeing it.
When you brought your awareness to it, that's where they say, like, the light of our consciousness. When light is in the presence of darkness, darkness cannot stay. And when we bring our consciousness, our awareness to those areas of tension, those areas of agitation, by becoming aware of it, we're able to let go of the agitation that's there. We're able to relax those areas. We're able to allow things to flow again. And it's such a simple thing, just sitting there, right? And that's where Vipassanas come from. It's like, okay, well, now you're just going to do this for days and days and days. And so, you know, for somebody like you, you know, you're active, you're moving around, you're surfing, you're doing all this stuff. So you're probably a little more active than a lot of people. There are a lot of people that don't have active lifestyles. And I found out that there are moves that we can do in yoga, moves that we can do in Qigong, moves that we can do in massage, self-massage. We don't have to get someone to do it. That will open up all of the different channels in our body and help release all the accumulated tension. And what happens is when we let go of all the tension in our body, the emotions that are trapped in the body, that are in different areas, also we can let go. Because every time when we have some type of emotion, it's actually in a specific part of the body, different parts. And for example, people that carry a lot of responsibility, they feel like they're having to carry the weight on their shoulder, literally. Those people have very, very tight traps, very tight upper backs, right? Yeah. And it's because physically, in their mind, they're like, man, I have to carry everything on there, and their posture kind of changes into that, and the pressure is right there in their upper back. While somebody has like a lot of financial fear and a lot of financial worries, they'll feel in the lower back, you know. Or somebody that has a heartbreak and they feel like, you know, they've been really, really hurt, they'll literally feel pressure in their chest, you know. And so there's different areas of the body that the emotion gets trapped in. And what we can do is we can literally move the body in different ways, all these different moves to go ahead and open up everything in the body. And then we can teach our bodies how to start relaxing so we can let go of all these emotions. And then when we let go of all these emotions, then it's so much easier to go ahead and not get angry, not think of all these negative thoughts, because those negative emotions is what triggers those thoughts. If we let go of those, there's not a foundation there to go and trigger all of these thoughts. Because, people all want to be positive. And they think the way to be positive is just to think more positive, listen to more positive things. And yet it seems like they're doing this uphill battle because it's so slow. And they're thinking, I'm trying my best, but how come I'm not getting the results that I want? And the reason why is because they haven't let go of the emotions, the negative emotion that's triggering all the negativity. When they let go of that, they're basically cutting the source of their negativity, cutting the source of their fear. A lot of the fear is not just in their head, in the belief system. It's actually trapped in their body. And someone goes, well, why is it in their body? Well, I thought it's just the mind. But people have heard of the conscious mind and subconscious mind, right? The subconscious mind is emotions and habits, emotions and feelings. And it makes up for 90 to 95% of somebody's entire thoughts. And somebody has 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And if 90 to 95% of it is in their subconscious and it's attached to emotions and feelings, which is in the body, then that means any emotions and feelings that person have throughout the day, their thoughts are exactly the same as those emotions. So if somebody is constantly mad because they carried it from a long time ago, they're just always in that state, their body's used to feeling mad, then they're constantly going to think about things that are mad. They're going to always look for opportunities to complain, always look for opportunities to get angry. And they'll always find it because they're always looking, And so that's where people need to go and make that change. And that's why it's such an important thing, because people can reach any level of success. It doesn't matter. But these things, no matter how much of anything they have, this is fundamental in all human beings. And people don't spend enough time to focus on it. Man, all they're going to have is a lot of stuff on the outside, and the inside, they are so miserable and they can't do anything about it because they put themselves into these golden handcuffs now, and they built themselves a golden cage that they're locked in. They don't even have the time to try to work on these things. And there's now more pressure because, when you ain't got shit, it's easy to go, fuck it all, right? I'm just going to walk away. Right, you're walking away from nothing. But imagine you got an empire and you're doing 20 million a year. Try walking away from that and walking away from the hundreds of employees and the millions of customers you serve, right? It's much, much bigger. So this is just something I feel like people need to at least just spend a little bit of time every day, maybe just an hour a day to start taking care of it so they don't just pile it on, and have it be a big thing later.
Yeah, I really love that, and I think that's really good advice. And I do believe that it is a holistic thing where it's not just our thoughts, it's not just our brains, and it's not just our body. It really is all connected. And, even though I don't understand exactly how our emotions and our thoughts and our body are connected, just by sitting there for a minute and just, letting it in and feeling it, I 100% it is. I can tell right away it is. And it's strange because I think I'm a pretty happy, relaxed guy, and I think most people that know me assume I am as well. But I think people that really get to know me and spend time with me, and can see what I get stressed, I get angry, I get, and maybe I don't blow up like other people would. But like the girl I was living with here under quarantine, and she spent 60 days straight with me alone in quarantine. She noticed that when I would be preparing for something, like I was creating YouTube videos and I was planning it out. I was trying to thinking how am I going to upload this, or if I was creating some kind of online meetup or event or something. The night before, I would snore. And I never snore normally. And she would say in the morning, she would say, "Hey, she's like, do you, are what are you stressed about?" I'm like, "What? No, nothing." And she's like, "No, you are for sure, because I can hear it, I can sense it." So really, there is something, even if we personally can't see it ourselves. If we're in tune with ourselves, we can. Or if we have someone to kind of look at us and be like, "Yep, you need to put down that baggage, or you gotta breathe."
There's ways for us to be able to become aware of our emotions, become aware of our feelings and our thoughts, because we have to first become aware before we're able to make any changes. And one of the most straightforward ways is to just practice listening to the thoughts in your mind. Just practice listening to it. Don't judge it. Don't try to conversate. Just listen to the voice in the head. See what it's saying. So sometimes somebody will sit there and they'll talk about something, or they'll complain about something, or thinking about something, and we just listen to it. And we just start to become aware of it, and we start to watch it. When we do that, we stop reacting to it. Because sometimes when we're not actually listening to it, then we become every thought that we think of. We believe that those thoughts are us, when in reality, thoughts are not who we are. thoughts is like a tool. It's something that is generated. Sometimes the thoughts come without us generating, and images, the same thing, think about it. Do we have control over every single image that pops in our head? If that was the case, that'd be different. But most of the time, it does not happen that way. Images pop in our mind, thoughts pop in our mind, feelings come and go. And so when we learn just to be able to observe them, we don't let them take over us. The biggest thing is that people are letting their thoughts and their emotions take over them. They're not the master of their mind anymore. They're not the master of their body. Literally, their body and their mind is running their life, not them. They are now the victim of their body and mind. They're supposed to be the master. There's a line that says, a mind makes a great tool, but makes a poor master. And that's because the mind is one of the most powerful tools that we have. We use it to analyze, we use it to remember, we use it to go ahead and come up with all these elaborate plans and so forth. But we can't use the mind to go ahead and dictate our life. When it comes to making decisions, we need to learn how to shut down our mind. If not, our mind will continue to go ahead and jabber. And so for somebody that isn't used to doing this and their mind is constantly running, they don't even know how it's like to have a quiet mind. And so when you tell them about how this experience will be when their mind shuts off, they look at you and they want to believe you, but they have absolutely no reference point to go to. And, I want to say that, you're a scuba diver instructor, right? You certify people and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. When you go down to the water, I'm sure you experience, that silence. There's a certain level of stillness under the water, right? That stillness can only happen because your mind is really still and you become very, very present. You become very, very alert. It also feels really, really good. So that state of being is what attracts a lot of people to do sports like scuba diving or free diving or other extreme stuff. A lot of people think it's just because the ocean is beautiful. It's a whole new world. It is, but the state of being that they're in is such a nice experience to be in that state and that environment. That action gets them there.
100%. I used to tell people that scuba diving is like meditation.
Yeah.
When I'm underwater, the only thing that you can focus on is your breath. And to maintain your air, you need to have a very slow breath. So, 4 or 5 seconds in, and then 5, 6, 7 seconds out. And it's like a very nice breath. And if you don't do that, if you're breathing too fast, first off, it messes up your buoyancy, so you're all over the place. But second, you run out of air faster. So it's almost like a forced breathing exercise. And on top of that, physically, you have to just relax and, be in a neutral position so you're not, floating up to the top. You're not, smashing to the corals on the ground. If you want to be able to just have a nice buoyancy, like a neutral buoyancy, you're physically just needing to kind of let go and just relax and be in that zero gravity buoyancy. And it's a really nice feeling. And even mind-wise, you can't think about anything. I remember we would have, on the boat, we would be talking about a riddle or something that is driving us crazy trying to figure out the riddle. And as soon as we would jump in the water, and then afterwards we'd come out, and then somebody would bring it up again. I'm like, oh yeah, completely forgot about that. Because your mind was so clear and present while you're down there. And the beginning, maybe it was, you're thinking about the diving, you're thinking about the something else, but when you get really good at it, you don't think about it at all. You're just there, and instead of even trying to focus really hard to try to find camouflage fish in the sand or the ground, the only way to even see these things is to really just relax and just let it come to you instead of trying to force it, because then if you try to force seeing something, it won't be there.
Yeah, when you relax, just as long as you have the intention to, let's say, see the camouflaged fish, when we relax and our mind starts to slow down, our awareness increases. And when our awareness increases, we now are able to perceive more information all at once. We basically are tapping into another level of intelligence. Our mind is so limited, I like the example of let's say you meet a person, you meet a person and you go, man, I really like this person. And if you were to try to go ahead and explain all of the reasons why you like this person, it would take such a long time and it may not even fully represent it. But in one moment, within seconds, you can go, man, I really like this person. And you're analyzing so much information simultaneously. And thoughts is like trying to go ahead and grab all this information and categorize it in all these different ways and explain every little thing. Versus one instant you can know. That's the difference between knowingness versus thought. Thoughts are so separated and slow,
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, 100%. Like I knew, like when I first met you, like I was like, oh, this guy's a really genuine good guy. Like he's someone I would trust. He was someone I would trust with the keys to my house. Versus if I meet someone else, I'm like, nope, there's no way I would trust them with anything. But so one thing that I do want to talk about is, like, I feel like for people who have worked on this for a long time, like, it wasn't like overnight, right? This has been something that we've thought about and we've kind of slowly practiced for years. And I think now that we've been through all these experiences and we've really expanded our minds and, we understand what it is, to be free and to be, mentally and emotionally kind of free. We know that state. So it's easy for us to take the steps to try to get towards it again. But my question is for the people who've never experienced it in the first place, right? So people who lived a normal life, they've always been stressed, they've always been fidgety, and they just don't even know what the possibilities are, in their minds. A lot of people, and hopefully they haven't stopped listening already, but a lot of people would just stop listening, right? Like if you start telling someone, normal, American person, busy life, you're like, hey, there is another level of happiness. They're like, yeah, whatever. I don't have time for that. Or, I'm fine. I'm happy. And you could tell they're not. I almost feel like sometimes they need like a major event in their life to force them to do this, or to do something kind of extreme, like a 10-day silent meditation, and just like throw them in there and have them be like, oh crap, like what was my life doing? Or like for me, like the first time I did mushrooms, that really expanded my mind. I was like, oh my God, I never even saw the world this way. I never had these thoughts, and it wasn't that like it magically fixed my life or anything, but it gave me a glimpse of all the things that weren't possible before. It literally, people call these, mind expanding substances. And for me, it really was. I really believed that all I saw before was, let's say a 10 by 10 room, that was the world. All of a sudden, afterwards, I realized, oh my God, this room, it's not just a room. There's a whole world out there. What are your thoughts on that?
Things like mushrooms, like psychedelics, they help us let go of judgments because they increase the vibrational frequency in our body, and so our consciousness starts to shift. So we have a new perspective, and this new perspective is one with less judgments. So then, if I look at this tree and I go, and my judgment on this tree is, man, this tree is just here to bear fruit. It's an orange tree, so it's just here to go and give me fruit. And if it doesn't have any fruit, then I'm probably going to cut it down and then plant another one, because that's what this tree is here for. That's my judgment on it. Then that's the only thing that I can see. Every time I look at this tree, I go, is it giving me fruit? Yes, good. I'm going to keep it around. And I don't see anything else. But in reality, this tree can be so much more. It's a living thing. It's a living thing. There's energy coming off of this thing. This tree has probably millions of other hosts as a home for millions of things that live in this tree and under the ground and all this stuff. But because I have such fixated judgments on it, I can't think of any of those things. I'm not aware of any of those things. And so when we let go of the judgments of this tree, for example, now when we look at it, now we can see this as this living being, that not only bears fruit, but also hosts a home for so many different things, that also gives off oxygen. And so there's all these different things that we can see. And so that's where the world actually changes. We're not trying to change the world. We literally change ourselves, and now the world changes because we simply look at it differently. And so this is for every single thing. Like people, when they're racist, they see somebody of a different ethnicity, and they just look at it as this ethnicity is this type of person. Here's what they do. Here's how they are. And they don't see the person. You take a normal 70-year-old guy, when they see a hot girl, they think, oh man, yeah, I'd love to go ahead and have sex with her. And they just see them as, as something with two legs walking. And they don't even see the person. They don't appreciate anything behind, because that's just the judgments that we have. And so it's so limiting. And one of the goals in our life to really be free is to let go of all these judgments. So this way we can actually start to see things and so much more for what they truly are, and much, much more. And so now when we see a person, now when we see a room, now when we go into a country, we won't just think of this limited ways of this is how it is, here's what I should do, here's what I shouldn't do, because we're so locked in. We're now actually free. We're now open. We're now open to experience. We're open to go ahead and see things so differently, which allows us to navigate through different experiences. Everything changes. And it all has to do with the judgments that we have in our mind, in our perception. And psychedelics is a way to give us a glimpse of it, but unfortunately there's negative effects of taking psychedelics. It drains your energy. It kind of throws your energy off the next day. You need some recovery time. And so people try to do these microdosing and things like that, and they start to create an addiction to something that is good for them. And so at some point they still need to find a way to get off and to do something different. And so I went down this path. I had my hands on all the stuff. I had everything. I had the acid, I had the mushrooms, I had the ayahuasca, I had the combo, like the frog poisoning, the hepe, the brown powders, and so forth, all these different things. And I tried microdosing, and I realized, like, I don't have a way to sustain this, There's got to be another way, because when you're on mushrooms, you're on psychedelics, it's really hard to function. You can sit there and look at a tree and laugh and go hug it and go, I love you, tree, and I love you, bird, and I love you, dirt. Okay, cool. So how can you go ahead and stay happy like that and now go do work? Now go have a meeting and go ahead and stay happy like that without actually just floating off, And so it's not practical. And I started to realize there's actually ways that we can still have certain aspects of that state. The aspect of peace, of calmness, of centeredness, of groundedness. We can still have those aspects. We can still have the aspect of feeling free, still the aspect of non-judgment, but without being floating in the clouds, without having, we don't need to carry all those things. That's not good for us all the time. And we can have those other things, so this way we can still build our business. We can still go ahead and engage and have intelligent conversations about things to get things done. And that's where I came up with the training method, taking all of these different aspects of training, because they all existed, so I didn't make up anything. But I realized that there are so many training methods out there, meditation and breath work and qigong and yoga and massage and martial arts and so forth, that were all created to help somebody get into certain states. It's all the same similar type of states that they're getting into. It's just the path was different. And for somebody like me with a fitness background, I'm like, okay, well, I like being in shape, I like being in shape. I like feeling healthy. I like feeling strong. But at the same time, I want to be flexible. I want to be mobile. But at the same time, I want to have my mind be quiet and get into these states. And so I started to incorporate different exercises, different practices. And every day I was doing a 4-hour practice. And bro, it worked. Wow. It worked like a charm. At the end of it, I was just like, bam, I'm grounded. I feel so good. Everything is chilling, right? But it was also 4 hours every day. And I knew that it's only a matter of time before I'm going to have to go ahead and do other things with my life, because I dedicated all my time to it. And that I couldn't really try to help other people do what I'm doing, because it's 4 hours. It's not realistic, and I'm an exercise nut. And 4 hours is still pretty long for me. So over the years, I started to condense down the practice. I started finding what things worked and what things I can just cut out, and how to synchronize them in a way so this way they all build on top of each other. And so like now what we do, it's a 60-minute practice, and it's unlike things that people have tried before, because people can go do yoga, they do all this stuff, but they don't feel this state that you feel when you're done with the practice. You're like totally relaxed, you're totally calm, but you're like very, very clear. There's like a heightened sense of clarity, and your body feels like really at ease. And there's like, you don't have like that any type of jitterness, because all of that was exerted. Because there's 4 parts, going into like strength, going into like building muscle, going into flexibility, moving energy, all this stuff. And so that's why I found like something that people can actually do, because it's like, where do people start? Once they have like this reason to go ahead and pursue this, like what we're talking about, do they need to go ahead and really hit rock bottom? Well, sometimes people do, right? Sometimes people need to have a reason, and ideally this is not what people like you and I would want for them, but it happens. Sometimes people hit a rock bottom, and now they're in so much pain and so much suffering that they are desperate. They're desperate, and now they're willing to give up, because it's all really about giving up. What do they want to sacrifice to go ahead and get something else? And now they're willing to sacrifice because the road ahead that is unknown and scary as hell is not as scary as where they are currently at. And that's really when people go, I'm ready to move forward. Because where I'm at is so bad that I may not know what's in front of me, but shit, it can't be as bad as where I'm at right now. It's always better now to move forward. And people can move forward in this way, and skipping so much of the other stuff. They can literally just do a practice like every single day. Because I realized, like, how do we make it to where people's going to go, I don't know how to do this stuff. I don't know how to do breath work. I don't know how to do this stuff. What do I do? And it's like, it's actually really simple. Somebody just does a practice every single day, and their body starts to change. And it's so repetitive. It's like, there's so much bullshit, dude, with like fitness industry that I was a part of. So I can't even judge it, man. It is what it is. There's so much misleading things about it that gets people spending extra money, gets people buying extra products, and doing all this stuff that's absolutely not needed. It's all meant so this way people grow a dependency for supplements, grow a dependency for trainers, a dependency for all this stuff, and it keeps them limited in their ability to create change by themselves. It creates a dependency for all this stuff. So that's how people constantly make money. But in reality, all that shit is not even necessary. And now it's like, what I'm sharing is that. Because I realized, man, I've been in the fitness industry for over 2 decades. I know all the freaking games. And I realized so much of this shit is bullshit. It's all just meant to go ahead and get people stuck and making more money for the companies. Not big pharma companies, but even for mom and pop companies, just in general. And when people start to realize this stuff, they start to be able to take the power back. People start to have more control. It's just like how we live this life where we travel and stuff. But before, a decade or two ago, what? Digital nomads? What? You travel all the time? You can't do that. You need to work for a company and be secure. You're going to be broke and end up stuck somewhere in the world. But we realize in reality that's not true. There's so many ways to do it. And once you learn how to do it and you cut through all the bullshit, now you're free, right? Now you know how to generate money. No matter if you have nothing, you know how to start from nothing to something, because you realize that a lot of that old thinking was just a way to keep people working for the man, and now there's ways to go and do things differently. It's the same thing with this, same thing with getting healthy, same thing with our mind,
I definitely agree with all that. And I think a lot of it's hard, though, because I'm trying to always put myself in the perspective of someone who's just completely starting out and doesn't have this knowledge. And I would like to think, I think there's only 3 ways, actually, to kind of, achieve that goal, whether it's fitness or happiness or entrepreneurship or whatever it is. One is hit rock bottom, as you mentioned, and be like, man, this sucks. I'll do whatever it takes. Like, no more excuses. My life is so bad that whatever it takes, I'm going to do, right? I'm so obese, and my doctor said I'm going to die in 2 months if I don't change something. I'll try that extreme, carnivore diet, or I'm so broke, I'm stuck in Thailand, I don't have money for a plane ticket home. I'm gonna work 60 hours a week. I'm gonna stop making these excuses. I'm gonna build that online store. I'm gonna launch the sales. I'm gonna stay up until 2 a.m. calling suppliers. Whatever it takes, I'm gonna do it because I have to, Or I am so depressed. I'm so unhappy in my life. I want to kill myself. You know what? Whatever it takes to be happy, I'll go do that 10-day silent meditation. I'll travel to Peru to do ayahuasca. Whatever it takes to be happy, I'll do it. And I would really, really, really like to believe that that's not needed. The other solution would be, the correct solution would be to understand that if you don't change your life, maybe you'll get to that point. So let's take the small steps now. Let's not do any crazy shortcuts. Let's just do what it takes to slowly build to a lifetime, something sustainable, whether it's the, 1 hour a day fitness routine that you can actually do for the rest of your life and not kill your body or kill your time, to slowly build the business the correct way. So you're not, you never get into a terrible situation, and but you're building a sustainable business, or to start adding a bit of mindfulness, a bit of happiness into your life now, so you don't even need to do the DMT or the ayahuasca to get that point. But at the same time, I'm really not sure. Like, maybe sometimes people just need, maybe that glimpse, right? Like, I think that the one big downside of hallucinogens or mind-altering drugs, is what you said earlier, that people get dependent on it. Like, I really believe that doing shrooms once helped me expand my mind a lot and helped my life. And I'm sure it's the same for ayahuasca. I'm sure it's the same for a lot of these, things. But I also, most of the people I know who have done it, they just get down the path of saying, all right, well, I have another trip to Peru planned. I have another trip to Peru planned. Or, ayahuasca was good, but maybe I can go straight to the source and do DMT next. Or, that wasn't strong enough. What's the next strong thing? And they just get dependent on that instead of using it as a tool of saying, let me expand my mind once. Let me see what's possible and have it be like a major reset, but then do something sustainable that they can do for the rest of their life that doesn't require, first off, getting into that mind altered state, from an external substance, which can lead to other problems, but also to be able to just say, what? Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen what's possible. I've seen, what I want in my life. Let me do things like you mentioned with the Qigong and the meditation and the yoga and the sustainable fitness, so I can just maintain this happiness and this physicality, but also slowly build towards a lifetime of having this balance in my life.
You make a good point, man. And I think with people that are taking psychedelics very often, they're planning their next trip to Peru and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of them are not trying to be addicted to it, but they just want to experience it again and again and again, because every time when they experience it, it's almost like a reminder, it's like a reminder for how things can be, because we forget, and it's like somebody going into a networking event, or they go into one of those, entrepreneur marketing events, right? They spend thousands of dollars, go hang out with some awesome people for 4 days, and then they come back and they're supercharged and they're pumped up and they're so excited about business and life and et cetera. And then 4 or 5 months down the road, they're like, man, that event was so impactful. I want to go to another one. It's kind of like the same idea, right? To get this experience. And some people need to have the experiences over and over and over. And sometimes the window can be small. It can be every month they need this experience, versus some people can wait once a year or maybe even longer. Different for everybody, I think it's up to a person that it's based on intention, that if they have the intention to, number one, not be addicted, and the intention to better themselves, then whatever they feel is good for them, no matter if it's once a month or once a year, whatever it is, do what you need to do, trust yourself. People can give you advice, but at the end, we need to trust what we feel is right, and just trust that. And no matter how crazy it looks like, I've known people that I have a friend of mine who did, I think, 36 ayahuasca journeys, within a very short period of time, and a whole other list of very, very, very powerful plant medicines. And he healed himself of autism, And so, he just felt like it was his calling. This is what I need to do. And so he just went for it. If you were to tell somebody, hey, this is my plan, what do you think? It's the other person doesn't know how you feel. The other person hasn't been through everything. The other person isn't experiencing what you're experiencing. So it's really impossible to give you an accurate thing, And also, I want to say that, how we talk about, we don't want, it's the best case scenario is somebody just goes and starts doing the practices and starts getting on the right path. And ideally, they don't need to hit rock bottom. That thing I realize about that is the idea of rock bottom is all determined on somebody's perspective of what it actually is. Somebody can literally look at their life, and one day right now they're chilling and everything is okay in their life. And then they can have a different perspective of their life and realize that they have hit rock bottom without anything changing in their life, simply by changing their perspective on their life. and suddenly they can't stand to be in their life anymore. And instead of literally having their physical life to fall apart, they literally can change their perspective. Let's say I'm making, $5,000 a month, I've got a decent job, I got a girlfriend, and everything seems to just kind of be coasting, And then suddenly I change my perspective, I start read some books, I start listening, and I start to think about my dreams and really what I want to do, and I realize it's to travel and do this, and to start this type of company, serving this type of people, and to make, millions and millions, and to be with somebody that treats me this way. And then in comparison to this dream, to this vision that I'm really envisioning getting in, I look at my life and realize, oh my God, this is nothing like what I want. How long have I been doing this song and dance for? I'm 21 years old, so holy crap, it's been so many years now. And how about all my friends? Oh, they're all doing the same thing. Nobody is doing this thing, but I know this thing can be done. And I need to get out of this thing like ASAP, because I'm so afraid that I'm going to get stuck doing this shit for the rest of my life. And I'm just going to let my dreams pass me by. And I also read somewhere that I heard from a podcast from an awesome dude named Johnny, that you got in your 20s, you got to go ahead and freaking go after what it is you want. Don't wait till your 30s and 40s. The older you get, the harder it is to start the shit that you really want to do. Oh my God, I need to do it now. And so we create this, not imaginary, but we create the urgency. We create our perspective that lights that fire to send us off to another direction. And we can also do that, So that's something I think it's just really based on perspective. And ideally, I think that's the best, when we create the perspective ourselves and we drive that fire ourselves. And so we are still okay to a certain degree, but this new drive, this new perspective gives us so much firepower, so much will to go the other direction, And I think and that's one way to do it, instead of having to wait for a lot of things to literally fall apart.
I really love that, Mike. I really think that is the best way, and I'm hoping and praying that this podcast inspires people to just start doing what it takes now before they either have to hit rock bottom or even have to, do something extreme like go to Peru or do the 10-day meditation. Hopefully they can maybe even just take this time and maybe imagine what their life either could be like, ideally, and then having that be enough to be inspired to do it, or imagining how bad their life could be, or what it's going to be like if they continue on their path today. If you guys imagine what your life is going to look like a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, if you don't change anything, if you guys are unhappy with that outcome, whether it's fitness related, life, relationship, health, business related, if you can imagine what it's going to be like a year from now, if you're going down the same path and you're not happy with the result, you can start making the changes today and not have to hit the rock bottom, or not even have to, even have that external that force. And I love going to conferences because I get inspired. I spent a lot of money to go to Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, and that helped me tremendously. It was $5,000, which is really expensive, but for me it was really well spent. It gave me a lot of the tools that I needed to bring my life forward. But a lot of people that I met there, they basically became addicted to the next step. They're like, okay, I'm going to, come back every single year to do the program again, or I'm going to now spend, even more money to do the next level seminar. And I'm looking around thinking, why? Like, he just gave us everything we needed. Now we got to go do the work. He literally gave us the outline, He's like imagine, it's like the personal trainer thing. I think it's a very good use of money to get a personal trainer when you're a complete beginner to show you the basics so you don't hurt yourself and so you have some kind of good plan. But then you're right about, that addiction of saying, okay, now I need to, if I don't have this trainer, I can't work out on my own. Like, no, that's nonsense, right? Or I need the monthly or, quarterly conference just to get inspired. Like, no, it's nice to do it once in a while, to, because it's fun, it reinvigorates you, you're going to meet some really amazing people, but we also need to realize it's not something we need, and, especially not more than once a year, once every 2 years, once every 4 years, or whatever it is. We should be able to get the tools from that, do all the work that was laid out during that personal training session or the business conference, actually do the work, come back again in a year or 2 or 3 years from now and say, okay, I did all that. Like, what's the next step?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just avoiding the uncomfortableness. the uncomfortableness of trying something they're not good at, learning new things. They're uncomfortable with failing. And I think it's just, once they realize that it's okay to fail, it's okay to be uncomfortable. There's a good chance I'm going to expect to suck at something that I'm new at. It's okay. Once they're okay with that fact, they can accept it when those type of results come. And if then the results don't come like that and they actually do well, okay, cool. Then everything is gravy. But when it does happen and they're running into struggles, everybody does when they first start in something, it's no big deal. I think they're just expecting it. But I think a lot of people, when they lack like that self-confidence, they lack that self-belief that they can handle it. It's going to be too tough. I need to be more prepared. It's going to be too treacherous. I'm not going to know enough. Well, you may not know everything. You don't know everything, but you do know things. Use what you know. And they go, well, I don't know the right moves. Well, just make up the moves as you go. Well, what if I don't do it right? Well, then you failed and you just get up and you do it again. And, like when I was building my company, Six-Pack before, like I didn't know how to do so much stuff. I was just literally I was building departments that I never even heard of. Didn't know they even existed. I don't even know what's the first thing needed to run these departments. It was simply just something needed to happen in the business. And then I was like, okay, so I need that person to constantly go into that thing and check this, send a message there, and then verify this and this. Okay, cool. Let's hire that person. Let's do that. And someone goes, oh, yeah, we call it this department. Okay, yeah, whatever. I don't give a shit what the name is. Let's just hire that person to do that thing, And later on, that turns into a department, and it's a department that corporate companies have, right? Okay, sure. That doesn't matter. It's just like, a lot of times people can use their common sense and still get things done. They don't need to know all of the professional jargon and the legalities that people feel, I think people just feel like everything needs to be a certain way. And I learned a long time ago, man, that rules are made up by people, things are made up by people, and they're not actually smarter than other people. It's just that they made it up because they came before us. I remember, what's his name? Steve Jobs, he said something very similar. He basically said, a lot of people think that these inventions and all this stuff is made up by people who are smarter than them, when really they're just made up by normal people, just like you and me. They just believe that they can do it. They just believed that they can do it, and they did, And I really take that to heart, I think when people just have that belief they can do something, no matter if they've never done it before, and they just keep moving forward. And then they're able to get more results because they'll end up learning more from experience than they do going to all these conferences, learning about, concepts and philosophies, but they never actually took the action. They don't know how it feels like. People actually end up, a lot of times, it's not about the planning. A lot of times it's just about the amount of work that needs to get done. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people go, man, hey, Johnny, have you thought about doing this? Oh, yeah, I thought about that. Why have you did it? Well, because I don't have time to do that because I'm here doing this, It's like, it's a lot of times it's not so much of the ideas. By the time someone gets to that phase to where somebody can't literally think of the next thing to do, it's like, right, well, there's a time for that, but most people aren't in that phase. They're just in the phase of needing to get work done, which just involves doing it. And people spend so much time in the planning phase trying to figure out what's the right thing to do that they don't end up spending enough time doing it. They're still planning on the right thing to do. That's why it's just so important, just to move forward, and just do what it takes.
I'm really glad you said that, because I think that's such a vital, important part of the journey is just doing the work. First having the belief that it's possible to do, and then second, having the belief that you can do it, but then really just doing the work. And I am glad, though, that in the beginning you did, spend time, and I think you are more empathetic and maybe compassionate towards people than I am, because in my mind, if someone doesn't do the work, they're just lazy. But you're right when you said, some people don't get started because they're so afraid of failure, or they're afraid they can't do it, or it's not going to work, and that's the prevention. It's not that they're lazy. Maybe some people are, but for a lot of people, it's not that they're lazy. It's that they're so lost and afraid and not sure if it's going to work, so they don't even get started. So they're always searching for that next, outside thing, that next magic shortcut, or the next, the next outside influence to kind of keep them motivated. But in reality, if they can just have the belief that it'll work, and then they start doing the work and they start seeing the results, that really is the magic formula.
Yeah. And these people, I mean, they could end up spending so much time taking notes, organizing everything, creating all of these plans, which will show like they're willing to do something, but they're just not willing to take the next move. Instead of going forward, they're just kind of going to the side. So...
Yeah. And I also believe that, like, even if you're doing it not the best way, like, maybe it's not the most streamlined way, just doing the work often gets you the results way better than people who overthink things and look for that perfect plan and not doing it. And a good example in the fitness industry is, like, the bro science. They could be completely wrong about why something works. They're not doing it maybe the best way. Maybe it's not a very sustainable way, lifelong. But if someone, really believes that having 20 raw eggs a day and, benching, 3 times your body weight, and doing, and they could have some weird, stupid science that doesn't work behind it. They're like, yeah, so every day that begins with a T, I'm going to do chess because the Tyrannosaurus did chess on days that began with a T. And, it could be completely BS, but as long as they believe it will work and then they do the work, they're probably going to end up in really good shape versus someone who knows all the science behind it, studies it, but doesn't actually put in any of the effort.
Yeah, that's very true, man. It just reminded me of this, like, this story. Oh man, I'm probably gonna mess this one up. It's a story of like this yoga master. He goes to this island and he meets this man that's been stuck on this island for a long time. And he asks the man, it's like, well, what have you been doing all this time? And the man's like, well, I came here and I've been practicing. I've been practicing what my master taught me because I want to go and become enlightened. And the yoga master asks him, well, how long have you been practicing? He's like, I've been practicing for almost 20 years. He's like, oh, wow, show me what you've been doing. And the guy does his practice. And the yoga master says, wow, you've been this whole time. And the man's like, really? And he's like, yeah, you've been doing it wrong. Let me show you how to do it right. And he shows him all this stuff. And the man's like, okay, thank you so much. From now on, I'm going to go ahead and do what you taught me because, I want to do it right. And the yoga master's like, okay, well, all right, well, I'm out. And then so he leaves. And then so he sails away. And then as he's leaving, he travels a little bit, he turns around and he sees this man running on water back to the boat to where he's at. And then the man gets to the boat and he goes, oh man, thank God you didn't get too far. You forgot you left this there. And he gives him something that the man left. And then he runs back. And so the story is like, the guy thought he's doing it all wrong, but because he's been training for that long, he can run on water now. He's like so badass. He's so good, and he didn't even care. He's like, oh, I've been doing it wrong. Okay, well, show me how to do it right. Okay, cool. But the point is, he's been training for that long, and even though he's been training that long, doing the wrong things, his progress was so amazing. And the yoga master realized that and was just like, oh my God. And so it's just it's a funny story. I remember reading it somewhere, but it just kind of shows, same idea with bro science, same idea, so somebody can just take the action, they'll get more results doing the wrong action than somebody who just doesn't do much action at all, because they're bound to learn, so it's the fastest way to learn.
Yeah, I definitely agree, but it's sad to me that there's so much misinformation out there on how to do something. And, maybe on one hand, it's because it's complicated, right? And everybody's in a different stage, and things are always changing and evolving. But at the same time, as you kind of alluded to before, unfortunately, the things that we'll see, the things that people spend marketing dollars on are the things that make money. And unfortunately, that's supplements, and that's, training programs that aren't designed maybe to teach you how to do it yourself, but for you to just get addicted to staying with them, forever. I wish that there was a clear formula for everybody to go out there. And, it's not that it has to be free, because I don't think anyone needs to, it'd be unfair, to say, hey, you guys need to create everything, like the perfect program and just put it out there for free, because people don't have time to do that. They have their own lives to live. The production value, it costs money to create stuff, costs time to make stuff. But I do wish that with everything out there, fitness, diet, exercise, business, spirituality, all that, there was kind of a balance where, someone could either pay like a one-time thing and know it actually works, or, have it be something where there isn't the BS involved behind it.
Yeah, just
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just have more integrity. I think when people have more integrity and they're creating things that are giving people as much value as possible, I think the first thought is, well, if I create something that's so valuable, how am I going to make more money? How am I going to receive more? But the thing is, look at our industry, man. Look at the world. It's evolving so much. There are things that people are selling now. There are products that are coming out that are so different than what it was just 5 years ago. And it constantly evolves. Things that people get into, from digital courses to physical products, there's so many things. And it constantly evolves based on how our world is changing. So opportunities are constantly coming. And I think when people start to sell products, when they start to create products with the integrity that I'm going to give the best value, and they do, then when they're wanting to make more money, they just look at other opportunities. Other opportunities starts to unfold. And they may not know how it's going to unfold, but that's where the magic happens. They get to unattach themselves to what their expectation of how their business is going to evolve, and let the business evolve naturally. A lot of about the whole thing with TikTok, right? TikTok, before that, it was another company, it was another name, and they tried this new thing, it didn't work, and eventually it became to where TikTok is now. And it's so many companies, it's the same thing like Amazon, Amazon selling books. Did they really think I'm going to go ahead and become this huge online company selling everything? It's you just kind of let things evolve over time, and without having to grasp onto everything, because things will constantly evolve. Just provide value for what it is that you're doing right now at this very moment. Customers will appreciate it. The brand will establish. People create a positive association to your company and what you're doing. And naturally, you'll see where the demand goes. You'll see what people are wanting. There will be something else that will start to continuously go. The idea that I need to limit my value and limit what it is that I'm delivering because I'm afraid that I won't have any more value to give, or that I won't have anything else to sell. It's kind of silly when we think about it. It's just silly. There's just infinite amount of value that people can create. People are making up products all the time on so many levels. From fitness to e-commerce to anything. It's positions are being made. Why? Because every time when a new app comes out, there's people are needed to learn how to use it. And then now when people know how to use it, they become an expert at doing this, expert at doing that. They can teach other people how to use this app. A new software come out. They can teach people how to use this software. It's jobs are constantly being created. Everything is constantly happening. And it just takes somebody to let go of the fear and let go of it and just kind of look at things. That's what we were talking about earlier. When somebody lets go of the judgment, they just start to look at things. They'll start to see the opportunities. But when people get really fixated on their judgments, they get really fixated on their goals, and they hold on to it and they grasp onto it, and they aren't able to detach, they literally are blinded by what's in front of them. They can't see past the framework that they create. And so the people that are doing the best, young people, this is the difference between young people and old people. We imagine older people are smarter because they've been around longer, but at the same time, they also have more permanent frameworks of this is the way to do something because this is the way we've always done it. While the young people coming in going, cool, here's what's going on. All right, so how can I do it? Infinite amount of ways. And suddenly they create ideas that are infinitely better and more innovative, and they can pass up the old people just really quickly. But for us people, I don't think you and I are old, but for people that have been around a little longer, all we have to do is just let go of frameworks, let go of the judgments, let go of the walls, and realize there's infinite amount of possibilities. That combined with our experience and knowledge is how we're able to constantly progress,
I love it, Mike. Mike, bro, I'm so happy we caught up on this. I'm so glad we recorded this because I think the life experience that we've had, business-wise, happiness-wise, spirituality, mindfulness, is really going to hopefully help guide a lot of people listening to this on the right path, so they don't have to make the same mistakes that we've made. They don't have to, spin the wheels, wasting a lot of time. They can just hopefully not have to hit rock bottom or not have to, do all the experiments that we've done to be able to find, their path. So I'm so glad that we caught up. We've both grown so much since we've last spoke, but especially since we first met. I'm so glad that you're out there. I'm so glad that you're creating content and sharing this with everybody. I really love you, buddy, and I'm really, really happy to have connected with you.
Thanks, Johnny. I am too, man. And thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share this with the people, man. I'm really glad we got to catch up.
Yeah, me as well. And I'm really happy that you have, content out there. You created something to help guide people on how they can achieve some of the same, benefits through Flow Tribe. Can you tell us about that real quick?
Yeah, so Flow Tribe is basically it's like an accountability. It's like an accountability partner. People join that. They get all these videos on how to do the training. They get all this philosophy and mindsets and all this stuff. But the magic about it is that they join a community where we have this accountability system set up. And it's so simple. It's so easy. Training all these years, I realized the most important thing is not that people don't know what to do. You can go onto any search engine of any video content place and you can type in workouts and there will be enough workouts to fill your day. But so it's not that. The fact is that people aren't motivated to go ahead and exercise. People aren't motivated to go ahead and do the mental practices. They're not motivated to get themselves to do it, and they're not accountable to continuing it. And so I realized that's like the biggest challenge. And so solving those two things, we motivate people to go ahead and get going, and we keep them accountable. And it's through a really simple system. When they do their practice, all they do is send us a message. They send me a message saying that I did the practice. And then I tell them good job, and they ask any questions, I answer it on the spot. And they are dependent on, and I'm depending on them to message. And they know that if they don't message, you're going to hear something from me. And so the people that aren't messaging after 3 or 4 days, I send a message, check up on them, And simply, most of the time, I don't even need to do that. Simply after a few days, they'll come back and they go, man, I had a couple rough days, I'm back. Because everybody's messaging and people they start to experience this FOMO. Oh man, Johnny messaged today and Barbara messaged and Sarah messaged. I want to do my practice so I can message saying that I got it done too. And so it becomes this awesome community, to where everybody is positive, everybody's encouraging, everybody's giving these high fives over chat and things like that. And now people are actually doing the work. And that's the most important thing, is getting people to do the work. And that's where we are creating the success from. It's not anything fancy, but it's very, very effective, because I've been doing this now for a few years with different close friends and different groups, to where I go ahead and tell people, hey, let's all jump on. I'll go ahead and keep you guys accountable. And I started realizing that simply by somebody knowing that somebody on the other end, other than themselves, is expecting them to go ahead and get their practice in, that one thing is going to get them to do it even when they don't feel like doing it. And we have it to where they have options to where if they aren't able to do a 60-minute practice, maybe because it's too long or they don't have the time, they can do a 30-minute or they can do a 7-minute. Or I tell them, I was like, if you don't do that, hell, go ahead and do 10 push-ups and then go ahead and just put on there 10 push-ups done. Cool. It's not about what people are doing, because everybody's at a different fitness level. It's about establishing the habit of doing something every single day. There's a lot of principles. I started realizing there's a lot of principles that we teach them while they're practicing that basically helps them let go of so many things, so many unnecessary pressures that people get when they're exercising, things like self-judgment, things like that, things like pushing 100%. Like a line I tell people is that, it's better to train 70% every day than to do 100% once in a while. And that's like the thing that a lot of people fall under. They go 100% and then they stop. And so they don't get results that way. They get results when they go 70%, but they do it every single day. It builds. So it's really awesome, and I really love it because it's a very different approach than all the groups that I've seen. Everybody has these Facebook groups, and this is nothing like it. This is not, we're dependent on people to kind of just sit there, send a couple posts. This is like people are on there every single day. It's so active, and people are actually getting results, and they're sharing things that are really, really deep, man. Some really deep stuff, because we've built this container of safety to where people aren't judging. People are only either going to lift up, they're going to lift people up, they're going to share different things. And so I share a lot of personal things on there, and it's just like this nice little tribe, so I'm really excited to where it's going to go, because we just started about a month ago. We haven't done much marketing or nothing. I've been just keeping it small just so I can go ahead and establish the base. Versus a lot what normal people do is, okay, well, if you don't have a lot of people in the back end, let's not worry about the product. Let's go worry about the traffic, worry about the conversion. I know how that works, but instead I'm going to go and look at it and what can I do to be the most aligned with my own integrity. And I realized that's to make sure that I'm delivering what it is that I promised. And I'm way over delivering right now, just so I can go ahead and get that to be good. And then I'll focus on the conversion and the traffic and things like that, So, so I'm really proud of it. Yeah.
I love it, Mike. I really believe that hits the two major pain points on why people don't get into a good routine is one, not knowing what to do, and then second, not being accountable to continue doing it. And this really hits both of them. So if people want to check it out, it's flowtribe.us. Is that the best way to check it out and reach you?
Yeah. Flowtribe.us. Yep.
I love it. Mike, so good to talk to you, buddy. Loved catching up. If you guys enjoyed this, please share it with a friend. I think the world can benefit from hearing the knowledge that was shared in this episode. This was episode 248 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. Screenshot it, send it to a friend, share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share it on your TikTok. I don't know if people share it, things like this on TikTok, but share it somewhere. And, go on iTunes, look for Travel Like a Boss podcast, leave us a 5-star review so we can continue doing this show and more people can find it. And yeah, that's it. I love you guys for listening. And Mike, I love you as a friend and also for all your wisdom and for your generosity of taking the time to share this.
Thanks, Johnny. Love you, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
See you later.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.